Hey guys, I want to try and record a little video before I go into this topic in depth. A lot of people always ask me how. And in reference to, well, many things, but what I'm referring to is in reference to what I speak of in spiritual practice, raising the sacred secretion, raising your Kundalini energy, as it would be called in the Hindu faith. Living a more righteous life, as it would be called in a literal Christian speak, where they don't bother speaking about the anatomy of the human body with regards to prayer, but it is there and it is going on, but it doesn't mean you have to know about it. The anatomy of your prayer body exists whether you talk about it or not. Whether you need to know about it or not is the other question. I had the sort of mind that did need to know about it. I needed to know what the process was that I was supposed to be going through to try and align myself vibrationally with my consciousness so as I could speak with God more readily and more easily. And the key part of everything I'm always saying, I often always try to show how important it is that you get to that space, that you get to that place. Even here the other day, I have been keeping away from running, and I've done so for health, just while I recover my body, because I trained very hard considering everything that's gone on over these years. I've trained very hard in amongst that. And I don't think it was the best thing for me. So I backed off and reduced my running to jogging or walking. But I had a very strong feeling to go for a run. And because I was silent in my mind enough, I understood that this was not coming from me, my carnal mind. It was coming from somewhere else. And when I went for a run, I met a young woman called Mary in the forest who was cutting down branches from trees for firewood so she could sell it to rent a room because she was homeless. But Mary was pregnant, so she was in very dire consequences and in a very difficult situation. And because I'd heard and understood that this wasn't coming from my flesh or my ego, and I knew it was coming from God, I'd gone for this run and I found her. And that's God directing me. That's God telling me to do something. Even though I'm doing it in blind faith and I don't realize what's going on, I knew it was God who told me to go, so I went. Likewise, last night I was helping someone in the community who's sick. And as you know, I've not been well myself. I'm still on a purely orange. I'm only eating oranges at the moment. Not orange juice, but whole oranges. That's all I'm eating. Just until my body bounces back fully. It's still aching. I still have a lot of pains. I don't know what's wrong with me. I've been for blood tests today as well, to be certain. But I was down, and whilst I was helping this lady who's a friend of mine, I heard a squealing outside of a puppy who sounded in distress. And I said to God, I really want to find that puppy, but I knew I couldn't because I was dealing with someone who was sick there. And then half an hour later, I left feeling terrible, drove my car around the corner in a dirt track, and in my headlights is this tiny little puppy who I've called Aries, and he's very, very sweet. So the reason I mention that is I was about to leave this person's house and I got a feeling I shouldn't leave yet. And I presumed maybe they were going to get sick again or they were going to need me, but it wasn't that. The feeling I got, I knew wasn't from me, I knew it was from God. That feeling was so as I would align myself with this puppy. God rescues innocent children, two-legged or four, and this is how my life has been here over these years. He has not made any difference between speaking with me and communicating with me to help children of the human nature or children of the dog nature. Both ways he's helped, so I know he cares about them equally as much. But this happened because I had myself aligned. I was quiet. Now, many people always ask me, as I say, how do you raise this secretion? And part of me is in line with my feeling on books. For those of you who don't know, the whole reason I started on the esoteric journey is God brought me a book. And he brought me that book because I was able to get my mind quiet. If the beginning of this journey is about silencing your mind, this is your big job. This is your initial big task. And it's difficult. You've got to sit alone. You've got to be patient. You've got to teach your mind not to speak. You've got to teach your mind not to look at a sky, a blue sky, and not call it blue. You've got to teach your mind to look at a beautiful night sky and not call it a beautiful night sky. You've got to teach your mind to look at a tree and not call it a tree. You've got to teach your mind to take no thought. And this is the first task for everybody. And it'll take years for most people. It took me years and years. It's a huge journey to be able to discipline yourself so as you can take zero thought for your life. Some people get it as a bang moment and it just happens to them. But most do not. Most have to work at it. And I had to work on mine for years before I got to the position I'm in now. Because I know how to take no thought, then back when I mentioned books, back when I was first starting out fasting. Now, fasting is one of the best ways to take no thought. If you've got a busy life and a family and so on and so forth, you're going to find it difficult. You have to set time aside. You have to make time now or later in your life. There are two paths on this planet. There's the path of the family man. A family man in this system struggles to find time to pursue spiritual pursuits. I do now. I never used to, so I know. I struggle to meditate. I struggle to fast because I've got a family to provide for. But I did a lot of it before I had this placed into my life. And while I was doing that and fasting, and I mean a lot of fasting, guys, you know, I've done a lot of 28-day fasts, 21-day fasts. And this is all I can say. This is my journey. This is what I did to realize this information and to feel and be given this information from God as to what's going on inside me whilst I'm fasting and feeling this amazing sense of connectivity and clarity that it was my secretion being raised and nurtured and returned back to the promised land. God taught me that during my long fasting, but I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I felt very good and very aligned. One time I was fasting in a city, a 4-story house. I was on the top floor. That was my home. And I heard beautiful music and singing. And after 9 days of not eating, I made my way down the stairs and I was quite dizzy and shaky, as those of you who water fast will know or have water fasted. And I made a video about this. Outside I met some Hare Krishna monks. I opened the door and they were there, singing and dancing, and they just didn't belong on the streets of Newcastle upon Tyne where I was in England. It's just not the place for it. But they were quite happy to just blare out this wonderful energy, and I was happy for it too. A guy from Paris came up to me, I forget his name sadly, a monk, a Hare Krishna monk, and he said, "You look so peaceful." And I said, "I'm fasting, maybe that's why." And he said to me, "Have you ever read the Bhagavad Gita?" And I said, "No, but I suspect I'm about to." And he handed me a Bhagavad Gita. And he said, "Enjoy that." And off they went, singing and dancing. And it was like something from some sort of mystical dream. But this is what happened in a grey northeastern city of England one day. And when I read that, I understood, starting there, right there is where God started me back on my journey of any sort of spiritual religious scripture. I understood from reading that something in their religion is clearly not literal. There are no little blue-black people running around. And this started a small fire in me. And it was during further fasting, and I was reading about Coptic monks and hearing different teachings from Coptic saints and what they deem to be desert fathers. There's even a desert father who has a few YouTube videos online as well called Father Lazarus. I began to open up further into the allegories of scripture. So God began my journey with the books. Now, I always feel that this can transplant into everything we're doing. That if you get your mind silent enough, God can still talk to you. And if you can get your mind silent enough, then God can guide you. And thus I wonder if we get our mind silent enough and we start entering the realm of synchronicity and meaningful coincidence and destiny, the route by which God has set out for us, these subtle coincidences and so on and so forth that take us towards our highest good, that perhaps it's not so much my business to always say how, which is why I never really focus on the how. I feel like if we can take the effort to get ourselves clean in thought, in deed, and get our mind silent, that God then can direct you. God can do that because he's done it to me and he's done it to others. And that's kind of why I don't speak about the hows, the deep hows. But in a roundabout way, I have spoke about the hows. I've told everybody what I did. What I did was I fasted a lot, I prayed a lot, I repented a lot, I changed my attitude about life, and I let go of regrets for the past, and I completely let go of anxieties for the future. And I just stayed in the present moment, in the thoughtless, abundant pool of wonder, which is the present moment. And I did what Jesus asked. I took no thought for my life. And from there, God laid everything onto me. And I know perhaps what I've been teaching, God has laid onto other people while they're in that state. So I do want to go further into teaching about this stuff. I do want to do some videos on how I did it, but a lot of it I think is already on there. And many people ask how? And I get at least 5 emails a week or more. It's not that many, but I get at least maybe 5 or 10 asking, how do you do this? And I always want to say, I'm showing you. I'm telling you. You're just not doing it. I'm telling everybody to fast. I'm telling everyone to take more thought. I'm telling everyone to pray. That's all I did. That's what I did. See, when you get silent enough and thoughtless enough, you can hear your body. Many people out there are probably already receiving synchronicities from God, but they have too many thoughts. And because they have too many thoughts, they try to label what's happening. They don't recognize it because they're not silent enough. They don't recognize it and say, that was God. That was God telling me to go that way. People try to rationalize it or separate it into something it is not. And ultimately, you say that was God. And I, thanks to lots of meditation and getting my mind silent, I can tell when it's God and when it's not these days. And everyone can get there if I can. In which case, many people, like I say, who are watching probably already are being directed by God, but might not quite align and be so clear as to say that was God 100%. But often it is. And in that world of synchronistic state, this is the best way to be taught. Because that's how I was taught. And I think the first thing I did to enter that state was fast and take no thought. And I'd say that's the foundation of it. The carnal mind is not subject to the laws of God. All thoughts are the carnal mind. All expectations, regrets are the carnal mind. So you let go of that. And when you've truly mastered that and you can say you've let go of it, then there's nothing stopping God from showing you everything else. And that's why now, when that time of the month comes, I am so able now to silence my mind that I can feel it in my body. Many people don't feel their own body. Like I've been telling people this week, I'm sick, so I'm not eating, or I'm sick, so I'm only eating oranges. And they say, no, you have to... And I look and I say, yeah, this is a carnal mind talking to me, saying I have to eat. The truth of the matter is that I'm silent enough to hear my body. And thus I say, I'll do what my body's asking of me. It would be just the same if somehow your carnal mind could interrupt the growth of your body when you're a child. Thankfully, the carnal mind has no influence on it. But if it could, you better believe it would interrupt the growth of your body, just as it interrupts the growth of your soul. It would stop you from growing and say, I'm not ready for that yet. Hang on a moment. I'm not quite sure if you're doing that right. Why are you wanting to grow an extra inch this year? Maybe I don't want that. Same as when we're sick. Well, I've got no appetite. Your brain says, you're supposed to eat something. When you silence your brain, you fall in line with your body and you go, oh yeah, of course, got no appetite. I shouldn't be eating now because I'm sick. You get better quicker. Got to get rid of that carnal mind. First part of the journey. I'll make how videos. But if you want to know how to do it, the very core, the very foundation of it is being able to be in a thoughtless state. Because otherwise it might even happen to you and you're not aligned enough with your body to recognize what's going on. You might just forget that that's the right time of the month. You might just think, I feel good today. I feel really connected to God today, which many people do. And they don't even know about the secretion, but that's what's going on. But if you want to know about it, then it's nice, it's important, I feel, to be able to be thoughtless enough to allow yourself to feel every aspect of the body. And different meditations can do that. You can sit and meditate and make sure all you're thinking about is the feeling in your foot or your leg or so on and so forth. So. How? It starts with thoughtlessness. The greatest teacher is God. I'm happy to share what God has shared with me. But how starts with thoughtlessness. And if I'm going to take people through step by step, the problem I have is I can only tell you what I did. And I think many people have families and such, and so you need to set time in the future where you say, I'm going to embark on a 40-day water fast, a 28-day water fast. I'm going to do this, I'm going to seek this. This is what I would say. This is what's important. You've got to find space inside somehow in the Western system, inside your lives, if you truly want it. This is my experience. There might be other ways. Maybe persistent meditation will work for some. But for me, that's what I did. So this is all I can teach is what I did. And if you're tied up with a business and family and so on and so forth, you need to make time for that. Or you need to accept that the journey you're on is the journey you're on. And in the future, you will be able to make time to go toward the more spiritual aspect of your pursuit. You'll be able to take time to have a long water fast like I did, or long water fasts. So you can begin to understand this. But there might be other ways, but this is how I did it. So it's the only way I could really speak of, is that which I've tried and tested. So I will make videos. I think I might just make 1.5 hour video, start to finish, what you need to do. But for now, let me just put that out there. That really the foundation of it all is being able to take no thought for the world around you. To look at a beautiful night sky filled with dazzling stars and not say a single word in your head. Just have that feeling of wow, but without the wow. Just that feeling, that overwhelming feeling. And if it doesn't overwhelm you when you look at it, and you know that your mind's a little bit too loud for you, because it always overwhelms me whenever I look at it. Right, on that note, Wanyama, Joe. So on that note, I better get off because Wanyama has just came back from school. How are you? You're good. Wanyama's just back from school and I haven't seen her for a long time, so I'm going to say hello. God bless, guys. Bye. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, as it really helps us to grow the channel and with it help more children here in Tanzania. Also, don't forget you can support our work by sharing with children in crisis here, be it sharing for a particular need or even sharing one-on-one support for education, housing, food and medical care. It can be done for as little as the cost of a cup of coffee a week back in the West after all. Just visit www.sharetanzania.co.uk to find out more. Lastly, remember you can also support us via Patreon, www.patreon.com/featherstail, and help keep us here in Tanzania to continue our work. The links for the website and for the Patreon are in the description box of this video. Love and light, guys. See you soon.